Ladies and gentlemen, ears of corn all over the internet and indeed the world. Welcome to a daytime session of the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. Today I am joined by my dear friend and my brother, Mr. Christopher Carey. How you doing, my friend?
Good, Polly. How are you, man?
Good, man. I'm doing well. So happy you're here.
Thanks for having me.
So excited to talk through some stories, share some memories, and just have some fun. Now, Chris, first thing I said when you hopped on this call, before I did my very self-indulgent intro, which quite frankly I'm getting pretty good at. No, um, my God, you talking about my jacket getting snug, my head's gonna get bigger. Yeah, I'm gonna need some new hats. And speaking of new hats, no, first thing I said when you hopped on this call was how much I was digging the Baltimore Orioles hat you were rocking up top. Chris, we're certainly going to touch on a few sports related things. I do think it's fair to say that sports and kind of that fandom and certainly appreciation has kind of woven itself into who you are as a person. And you, like me, are a Baltimore Orioles fan that spent a good portion of his life here in Long Island, New York. Now, for me, I became an Orioles fan because they were lovable underdogs when I was in college in York, Pennsylvania. Nobody wants to hear about that all over again. I'm curious for you, how do you become, quite frankly, such a huge O's fan? I mean, you certainly dwarf my fandom. And how does that happen? And kind of describe kind of what that franchise kind of means to you. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of the biggest things that kind of defines my childhood. I was the Orioles fan in the town of kids that all rooted for the Yankees or even the Mets. I was even worse with that. And yeah, I know that we have that in common. You kind of became an Orioles fan from being in York, but mine comes from my dad. He's born and raised in Ireland and always a big Orioles fan. So, growing up, biggest Cal Ripken fan in the entire world. And, kids posters on their walls and stuff like that. He was my idol, the Iron Man. And, for him were something that I had in common with my dad. I was a military kid, so we moved around a little bit when I was really young. So I just kind of adopted his teams. And it's been a long road at some points, but I do loving the lovable underdog, and it's something that I would trade a lot to see them actually win a World Series sometime in my life, because I think it's been since 1982. But yeah, so yeah, it really comes from like a bond with my dad, in rooting for the Orioles, and really his roots and where he grew up. So I remember playing with him in Cal Ripken's 2,131st game, and all those big memories with him when he retired and stuff like that. But yeah, it was really something that was always on in my house. We had DirecTV so that we could watch the Orioles, and I kind of became like the anti-Yankee guy just because it was kind of fun to do too. But yeah,
Yeah.
really just from my dad. That's really where it came from. But then, after college and I ran into you and you're like, "Oh, I love the Orioles." I was just such a big fan, and so happy to talk to somebody about it too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
glad you're on board as well.
Before you know it, man, we're just saying buckle up to each other for no real reason, you know?
Yeah, man, that trip down to Camden Yards with you and Rich was like one of the greatest memories of like my early adulthood. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude. We'll certainly touch on that a little more in just a few seconds. Tell me about, I know you had the chance to meet Cal Ripken. Can you tell me kind of a Reader's Digest of how that went?
Yeah, yeah, I think I was 19 or 20. The All-Star game came to the new Yankee Stadium, and my mom's school had got this like field turf installed for their football field, and he was like the spokesperson for field turf. So she got a couple tickets to this banquet, where he was like the keynote speaker, but really kind of promoting this, fake grass that there was installed in their school. So I sat through like a lecture on field turf, and then he came around, signed autographs, and chatted at tables with people in this banquet hall. And he walked into the thing a little bit early, and I kind of noticed him in the back of the room, and he like looked at me with his beautiful blue eyes. He's got beautiful blue eyes. And then like kind of made one of these faces like not supposed to be here yet, and came and like stood right behind me. He put his hand on my shoulder at one point, and I just remember looking across the table at my mom and just going, "Oh my God." It was like a dream come true for me. And I brought my rookie card that my dad gave me of his, and he chatted me up about it and thought it was a pretty cool thing to see. So yeah, it was a life-defining moment for me. but very cool.
Oh, it's special, man. That's sweet. That's sweet. If I remember, forgive me if I'm misremembering, but one of my favorite parts of that story is if I recall, your mom was trying to sneak a picture and you were trying to tell her no.
Yeah, she had her little camera phone like up, and I was like, "Mom, like that's totally not cool. Like you're totally making me look bad in front of Cal Ripken." And
Not in front
thankfully,
of Cal.
thankfully he was posing for pictures with people anyway. So I ended up getting like one of my favorite photos of all time with him, standing there. But she's just like this. No, Mom, you're making me not look cool. It's so embarrassing.
Not in front of my friends.
Not in front of Cal Ripken.
Oh man, well, cool, man. I'm so glad you got to experience that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I was trying to think, actually, in the build up to the call, I was trying to think of who equivalent sports wise would be that for me. Probably Michael Jordan. That's a little basic, but I mean, this is when we grew up, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, during the time period of being a basketball fan, if you didn't like Michael Jordan, if he wasn't the guy that you looked up to, you weren't really watching basketball.
Yeah, man. It was hard. Like and those were some real. It's scary to say. You talk about the O's having a long road. Like it's scary to think about how relevant the Knicks were back then. Like the Knicks were relatively likable too in their own way, man. That was a team.
Yeah, they were. They would get there a couple times and then not really make it all the way. But I wasn't the biggest basketball fan back in the day. But my understanding of the Knicks is, Madison Square Garden's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. Right on. Yeah. That's what it says. That's what it says on the plaque in front of the building. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to MSG. It's pretty cool. Another. I don't want to call it strictly a sports franchise. I don't. I know you spent. I'm leading to another story of mine that I tend to treasure. But I don't want to just gloss over your time at Ohio State, throwing red pumice in celebration of all the football games.
Yeah, that's another thing that I have in my life. I've been lucky. That's the winning franchise in my life. really the only team that is a consistent contender. Other than that, there's not much on the slate. But yeah, I'm a big Buckeyes fan, and been blessed to be through some good times, a couple national championships and stuff like that. So a lot of fun.
Two of my favorite. I'm going to call them Ohio State memories with you, but I've never been to Ohio State with you. I know you spent you went to school there. Very sincerely, I know we had to talk about spray painting pumice and throwing it like confetti, but that was mostly me being weird. But you were very patient with that.
This is a soft rock, right?
What's that?
It's because it's a soft rock.
Yeah, indeed, man. Pumice is very soft. You can throw it with ease, and it can fall on people without any injury. Man, dude, a couple nights got pretty straight. But another one of my favorites, which I don't think you have any clue how hard I actually laughed. You either made or somebody close to you made Buckeye cookies or something like that, and somebody said that they looked like something else that wasn't a Buckeye, and your response to that was count the leaves. I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And I get that for the sake of whatever like podcast show this is, like that's like cool story, bro. But like I'm telling you, man, when you drop that, I thought that was the funniest thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all today I was wearing an Ohio State hat that is just a circle and it has the green leaves and it's
Yeah,
a 5 leaf, you know,
count 'em, baby.
and yeah, I wore that hat through New York City one day and I quickly realized that I was getting looks for some of the wrong reasons. But, if you don't know what it looks like and what the difference it is between, that and, a marijuana leaf, maybe it's, yeah, I can see how you can mess that up. But yeah, it's only 5 leaves instead of six. So, yeah, count the leaves, bro. That was my
So if that's for anyone's future, if there's one moral to take from this entire Zoom adventure that we're having, it's to count the leaves going forward in every aspect of your life.
yeah. Yeah, but I changed that hat just in case like there's like a still picture or something. Somebody didn't gloss over that and just say, I wouldn't have my chance to rebut and say
Right.
count.
Unless you just have it on the hat itself. Oh man. Anyway. Now, speaking of Ohio and Ohio State, I'm going to talk to you about a story that's stayed in my family. I'm going to tell you the story, and if you don't remember much of it, I totally get it. There's no pressure for you to be like, oh, yeah, I remember that. But I just want you to know that amongst the Policastros, it has persevered, okay?
Okay.
Back in early high school, Chris and I were always good, solid acquaintances. And that's the best way to put it. Like, I don't think there was ever a time of like not friends or this, that, or the other thing, but there was certainly a time where it was just like, oh, hey, Chris, oh, hey, Dom, and that's it. One of the times where this was pleasantly and painfully on display was when Chris was working at a local pizza place called the Casa. All right, and Chris was helping out. He might have been our waiter, quite frankly, but bottom line, he was working there. And Chris Carey comes up to our table. We're all four Polo Castros setting up shop. Before I finish, do you know where I'm going?
I do. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what was said or anything, but I remember this moment.
Yes. Okay. So Chris Carey comes up to the table and he's like, can I get, he's doing his job, man. He's like, can I get anybody any drinks? And in the middle of it, he's just like, oh, hey, Tom, how are you? And I'm like, hey, Chris. And, Chris leaves the table and everyone's like, oh, that's a friend of yours? And I'm like, yeah, kind of, I guess. He's a good dude. And I happen to bring up that Chris is going to Ohio State. And my sister at the time is going to Ohio University. And so the next time Chris comes back, again, just doing his job, my dad strikes up with him that, hey, we heard you're going to Ohio State. That's great. Noel's going to, Ohio University there in Athens. And they start talking about the commute. And God knows how much Chris actually wants to have this conversation at the time. But they start talking about how far apart, Ohio University and Ohio State is. And my sister's brighter than me in just about every way, but quite frankly, writing, So just when I jump into this story, know that she's brilliant. But my dad says, like, yeah, I've heard that commutes, it's only about 90 minutes. And Noel goes, no, it's an hour and a half. And so immediately that happens. I'm sure that I deflate like a balloon. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just like, this is not what I signed up for when I came out to eat, much less Chris. You know what I'm saying? And then I just see the realization of Noel. I see my dad like waiting for Noel to get it, and then Chris just goes like, "Okay, any more bread?"
Yeah. I remember that. I remember that. Yeah. Any interaction with Mr. Policastro is always special. So.
Tell me about it, man. It's been nothing but capital letters ever since, man.
He's always got a foul to give, that guy.
A foul to give.
That's too funny. That's I mean, when you started bringing it up, I was like, oh my God, I remember that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to recall that if you didn't start that story though, but that's too funny.
Oh, too good, man. Um, Man, I had Rich. I was fortunate enough to be able to talk to Rich a couple weeks ago here on this platform, and we brought up the Baltimore trip, just like you did. Um, Nice little road trip, and I remember that. I remember a lot of things about that day. I will say that you were kind enough to drive, and you said, "I don't like to make road." I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, "I don't like to make road trips without dipping, but I feel like it's a little too early to dip." And so Rich and I are just like, "Do whatever you want," you know what I'm saying? Like, and then Rich turns on the radio, and Phil Collins' "In the Air Tonight" comes on, and literally Rich says like, "I don't might be a little too early for Phil Collins in the air tonight." And I'm just saying, like, look, if it's not too early for Chris Carey to start dipping, then we're gonna keep on Phil Collins in the air tonight. And I just remember that set the tone. We were in the Better on a Bagel parking lot when all that happened, and that set the tone for the whole trip. And then we took it.
Yeah, that was pretty early in the day for Phil Collins, that's for sure. But it did set the tone for a pretty great trip. I mean, that was one of my it was such a great memory with you and Rich, of course, driving down the Jersey Turnpike and getting to Camden Yards on a day that, the Yankees got destroyed and we got to end up, I think we ended up making the playoffs that year for the first time
Yeah.
since I
So
was a kid.
what was
So,
cool is they had everybody stay after the game because if one team lost, we were going to clinch right then and there, and the playoff spot. And it was cool because the team was just sitting out on the field. It felt like a Ducks game, if I'm being honest, because the team was
yeah.
just sitting out of the field watching the scoreboard with us. And it's not like we're just watching a big old TV rather than watching a baseball game. And unfortunately, the team that had to lose won that, but they lost later in the day. So we were at a pool hall later when the O's actually clinched. But it was a cool little moment to have this kind of in Camden Yards see the Orioles clinch with the Orioles, kind of. It was a cool moment for sure.
Yeah, it was like we were watching along and rooting along with them. It was pretty cool.
You bet. And then the Jets naturally got smoked that day as well.
Yeah, I think we were watching that in Hooters.
What's that?
I think we were watching that in Hooters in the Inner Harbor, if I remember correctly.
Maybe. Have we done that trip a couple times? Is that a stupid question?
I I think that was the only time.
Oh dear. Okay. Because I do remember that the Jets were at least losing at the time, and they had like that little like in between inning game where like this little girl had to run from center field to home plate. And I remember leaning over to Rich and I said like, "Yo, that girl's run further than Shawn Green."
Yeah, Rich was wearing his Mark Sanchez jersey too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. What a tremendously special time. Cool little trip to Baltimore. We saw Nick Pappas, baby boy. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, speaking of Rich, I want to flash forward, if I could, to a couple of pretty special moments from his bachelor party in Atlantic City. I want to talk about you and I are both some very competent, we'll say, but I think that's selling us short a little bit. We can play some basketball. That said, embarrassingly enough, to throw myself under the bus first, I neglected to pack sneakers of any kind for that trip. I left them in Rich Arleo's living room while we were waiting for the car to go there. So I spent the entirety of the trip in my really nice but super uncomfortable dress shoes, which was cool when we were in the gosh darn casino because I look pretty fresh if we're being honest about it.
Definitely, you look pretty fly inside.
Woo-hoo, yes, not to fly outside, man. I don't even know what I look like outside. You don't have to finish that sentence either. But anyway, man, I'm walking along in like my otherwise casual shorts because it's steaming hot, and I'm wearing my t-shirt and hat, and I got my nice dress shoes, and I'm walking along on the boardwalk with my feet all sored up, and we come across this basketball court there on the boardwalk, and it's kind of a if you make a certain amount of 3-point shots, you get like a prize or something like that. It's a carnival game, I guess, but kind of a step up. And who knows whether the rim itself was regulation. I know that the hoop was not a regulation size. I do know
Here come
that.
the excuses.
What's that?
He said, "Here come the excuses."
Yeah. Oh, come on, dude. I still did better than you, dude.
I know.
Yeah, that's where we're coming. Hey, yeah.
In shorts and dress shoes too.
So I get there, and I want to do it. Shoot, man. And so I'm trying to do like this 3-point contest. It's like a pretty legitimate setup. And I'm going around, and every shot I take, I'm like, my feet. Like literally in my head, I'm just like, ow, ow, And so out of about, I got to be honest, it might have been as many as like 15 shots. It was a few, and I only made one, which not that I'm the best at the game by any stretch, but like to only make 1 out of 15 is that's not gonna happen twice. You know what I'm saying? And it was not a good showing. My feet are on fire, even more so than they were. And Chris Carey says something equivalent to just like, well, that can't be like the impression. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't leave on that note. Like, let me try. And what happens then, Chris?
I'm pretty sure I went around and, from the first corner, missed all the shots. And the wing on the left, missed all 5 shots. Got to the top of the key. I think I missed 2. And some kid on the boardwalk yells, "Bend your knees!" And at that point, I was just like, "Oh, it's on!" And I just started shooting. I proceeded to miss the next 3. From the wing, I missed all. And from the other corner, I missed them all. And the only thing that I remember from that whole experience is that damn kid yelling, "Bend your knees" to me. Because I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and I walked in so confident that I was going to hit at least 2 shots.
Yeah, man. I did not set the bar very high, and I thought I was embarrassed, but then Chris does it, and it's one of those things like I'm not gonna like draw attention to the fact that like Chris did worse, but like in my heart of hearts, I'm like so relieved that Chris did worse. You know?
Well, the kid pointed it out pretty. He made everybody look. Look at this stiff-legged shot. This guy's terrible. So you didn't even have to say anything. I was feeling it from that guy.
Tell you what, kid, like you go out in Atlantic City 2 nights in a row.
I don't think we stuck around long enough to watch anybody else shoot.
Yeah, we were booking it.
Showing. You had our only make out of like 60 shots, maybe.
It was bad. It was bad. That'll never happen again. Like I want to go to Atlantic City just to like do that. Like before we even get to the hotel, I'm gonna be like, like let's hit up this boardwalk and we're gonna walk till we find it.
Oh man, that was so fun. I was so confident.
I can't blame you, man. I was confident, man. For me to make 1, incredible. I don't know. We can move on. We can lament that for as long as we live, man.
Bend your knees.
David, boy. The other thing I wanted to bring up real quick, I have to, man. I'm so sorry. Is one of the nights in Atlantic City, I'm at one of the tables, which I spent some time doing, including following around one of the dealers when they were guiding me to another table. Anyway, because they were changing stuff, not because I was. Anyway, I said that weird, but it was all good. But I do remember there was one night where suddenly I got a phone call from you, and you're calm, you're cool as a cucumber, you are, and I'm just like, "Hey, Chris, what's up?" He's just like, "I have to say, man, I don't really know where I am here in this casino." So like, you have your bearings enough. Like, I'm not trying to tell. This is not me picking Chris up off the floor. This is not, and God knows I've been, I've had my moments too, but he's just like, I don't I don't really know where I am in this in this casino. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, you need me to come find you? He's like, yeah, could you? Could you? And I'm like, okay, all right, sure, dude. And then I'm like, describe to me where you're at. And then you're like, I'm by the elevator. I'm like, okay, you have any idea what floor? And he's like, not really, but I see the casino. So we're here at like on the gaming level. And so you're cognizant enough to get me that. And then I'm just kind of taking a lap around all the elevator bays. And then suddenly there you are in front of a photo of like Nick Lachey, who's like performing there later on, in like a week or so. I'll never forget that image. In my mind, like I like to admit that like I like to think that Chris Carey just like found comfort in like being next to Nick Lachey. It's just like nothing bad can happen as long as I'm right here. And I remember going up to Chris, and again, this phone call was relatively normal. It really was, which is part of the why I feel comfortable bringing it up. So I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. And so I walk up to Chris Carey, and he sees me, and hand to God, he is not crying. He is not. I want to be very clear about that. But he gets very kind of emotional, and he gives me like this big old hug, this huge hug, and it's literally, and I'm not opposed to hugs, but it's genuinely one of those moments where I'm just like, oh, hey man, like how are you? And he's like, he says, and I quote, he's like, it's so nice to see a familiar face, and I'm like, oh my god.
Those are my exact words. Oh man, I mean, probably because I was staring at Nick Lachey. I was like, yeah, that's much better. But yeah, I got separated from everybody, and I'd never been to a casino before that trip. Honestly, didn't realize how everything looked the same.
Yeah.
And after a few sodas and getting separated from everybody, I didn't realize that it seemed like the casino had multiple floors.
Yeah.
Because there were places where you would walk down, there were elevators over here,
Yeah.
and it's all one floor in Harris. And I thought I was looking for, I don't know what I was looking for. I was looking for a familiar face, but I had walked in a circle for a while looking for anybody, and I knew that you had gotten, well, not separated, but you had sat down at tables, you were gambling while everybody was out, either at the pool party or I don't know what.
That was the pool party.
Is that what it was? And we had gone there originally, and then we were just kind of like, this isn't really our scene. And then I think you went to gamble. I was off with I don't know what happened.
Right.
But yeah, I think, it might have been a drunk hour, but I think I've spent a while alone walking through Harris trying to recognize something. And yeah, and then I called you, and, I'm surprised you found me. but yeah, it was a moment of relief because with all the bells and whistles of the casino, I was like, I don't really know where I am, man.
Yeah, man. No, it was a deep moment, man. It's a moment I'll never forget, man. I appreciate that. Boy, oh boy. It's good to know. That was the night. There was a group that went to the pool party, but they wouldn't let me in with my Dirk Nowitzki jersey.
That's right. You were wearing a sports jersey.
Yes. And I said to the bouncer, and we're stone sober, like walking into Atlantic City. So this is not me. This is just me, pathetically normal. I said to the bouncer, I said to him, I was like, yo, if I was wearing LeBron James, would you let me in? And he just no-sold it. And I was just like, okay, like.
Nope. I remember being right behind you for that and being like, I don't know if this is my scene either now. So yeah. A heck of a trip, that one. And the limo that broke down. Oh man, that was a lot that happened there.
Yes, dude. And just like the what was it? Not antifreeze, the engine coolant, like when he popped it open and the whole thing just like geysered up. Insane. It's tremendous time. There was also the time where we had, oh man. Yes. Okay. Good times, man. Yep. We'll leave it at that. It was very good. A lot of fun. So I wanted to bring up very quickly a couple of times you and I had the, I'll call it good fortune, I'll be that guy, of witnessing some tumbles at our local watering holes. Um, and one of them was at a place called Recipe 7 right there in Miller Place. And I remember we're watching kind of like a sports countdown of like bloopers or something like that. And we're kind of debating whether the number one like blooper of that month is going to be that college football play where the guy like pretended to like corpse. And, and so like that in and of itself was a super fun conversation to me. But then I remember the two of us are kind of momentarily distracted by Van Halen's "Hot for Teacher" coming on
With the
the
live band.
backyard screen. And Chris, you want to talk me through the rest of this, man?
Yeah, so I I don't even know how it happened, but those two there was two older ladies who were really into the song. Really into the band, and we just happened to be turned around for some reason, I guess, watching this all unfold.
So surreal that we happen to turn around.
And one lady decided to get up on the stage and swing her hair around, and she went straight off. And there was a moment of like, oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yes.
dead laughter
And
because it was, yeah. I don't know if you remember it a little bit more vividly, but
no, I
it
mean,
was
you pretty much
hilarious.
summed it up. This girl hopped on. She presumably was a teacher that, she wanted you to be hot for, I guess. And she's just swinging it up. And then suddenly you just see her just like disappear off the side of the stage. And I love the fact, like, Chris and I are not there for the music, like we're there to watch sports, talk a little bit, and but just the fact that we both happen to be watching this, and then I always love those moments when like something happens and you can hear the crowd in the room go like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like I love that. I live for that moment. And so you hear that, and I just remember like immediately Chris and I like look at each other like, whoa, did you see that?
It's one of those moments where you would go like, "Oh my God, did you see that?" But we
Yeah.
were both in the just looking at the same thing at the same time. It probably just, it was very funny.
Oh man. And then there was that time at Benchwarmers where we were there with Rich and we were playing shuffleboard, which was kind of our thing for a while. We did that for a little bit.
Yeah,
And I do think Chris was the best of us. I'm not gonna lie. Chris had some steals by the end, I think.
none of us were any good.
I don't think any of us were any good, but I think Chris was the best of the not good. Say that.
I'll take it.
You can put that on. You can put that on a hat. I think.
Best of the not good.
And then there was a time where we were doing that, and Chris was kind of like backing up from the table, and he was backing up at a snail's pace, so very softly, and he's like about to bump into this woman. You know, young woman just happened to be kind of standing there, but Chris is moving so slowly that it's not even something you draw attention to. It's literally just like I'm not even exaggerating. Like Chris, I mean, Rich and I are on like the other end of this long table, and Rich and I are both just like, "Yo, Chris, look out." You know what I'm saying? Like it's not even because even if they tap, it's just like, "Oops, my bad." Chris proceeds to tap this woman, and this woman winds up sprawling out like she falls, and Rich and I are doing pretty much what Chris and I did at Napper Tandy's and just going like, what the hell did we just see? And the woman wound up being fine. And obviously every patron in the bar knew that, Chris wasn't out of line or anything like that. So, I mean, she eventually just got helped up. And I guess there's not much of a story or follow up to that, but I'll just never forget something that should have been just like a, sorry, I accidentally bumped into you. And suddenly just like, my God, like, how do we help this young woman up off the floor? I,
Yeah.
I, I doubt that's a highlight for you, but I want you to know that I still cling to it. Yeah.
Well, you had a better view than I, obviously. I was turned around. Yeah, you would have thought I was Warren Sapp in the bar at that point.
What a reference, man. Yes, no doubt. Get another hat out of that, bro. Now, Chris, I have my buddy Greg from Baltimore, or Glen Burnie, close enough. I have my buddy Greg on the show the other day, and he reminded me. I got to be honest, I didn't even remember. Uh, he actually made the drive from Maryland to come see my first ever ukulele fundraiser. Um, I understand that uh, while the music was stylized mediocrity, you have a pretty special memory from one of those concerts as well. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, Crazy Beans, Miller Place.
Yeah,
Polly's did a fundraiser, Polly and Friends,
yeah.
for the Miller Place Performing Arts, and I remember throwing money in the jug and being there to support you guys. And you, I think it was Kaplan. I think Zach might have played there for a couple of songs, and Ben, and yeah. So at one point throughout the night at Crazy Beans, I met my wife, my future wife. So I have you to thank for the ambiance of that moment.
Yeah,
Um,
we were creating romance by the second, you know?
yeah, you didn't even know it. But yeah, no, that was where me and my wife Melissa first. Not where we first met. I mean, we all went to high school together, but she was in town from the city with some friends, and of course, this was supposed to be benefiting, the performing arts in Miller Place, and she knew Polly and everything, and or Tom, however, the host of the
Indeed.
show.
Indeed.
And that night we ended up like we ended up seeing each other. We ended up started talking online after that, and one thing led to another. Went out on some dates, and went back to the show the next year, and we got engaged, and now we have a beautiful daughter. So it all started on one crazy night at Crazy Beans, though, which was pretty cool, and I remember it very, very vividly. But yeah, so Polly bringing people together, and people, always appreciate the arts that you do, and the performing arts and everything. But it was a pretty cool night. I don't know if it was the first one. I think it
I
might have
don't
been
think so. Yeah, I'm not sure.
but I know it was in Crazy Beans in Miller Place before that was moved.
Yeah,
Uh, and that's always like a kind of a special spot and a special memory for us.
that's awesome, man. And honestly, I look back, it's something, to be honest, I can't pretend that I think about it more than the once a year that I do it, but like, that's always a cool story for me to know, just like kind of the ripple effect of things like that. And I think surely uh, my music is not without some talent. I'm not trying to be self-deprecating, but like the music itself is forgettable. The causes will take their funds and use them and thank me, and they will move on. I will move on. Uh, to have had so indirectly, to have had kind of a an impact on something that has become so beautiful and so permanent. I don't think there's any greater reward for any of the shows that I've done. So I think that always, as much as I'm sure it's special to you in your own way, it's also special to me in my own way. So I'm just glad that happened, man. Very cool.
Yeah, no, and we have you to thank for bringing us together. I mean, it's not too many people put together nights like that can bring together different groups of people for a common cause, and be such an intimate night as well. Sharing in your music and stuff is a small coffee shop vibes, and very very cool intimate experience. So it's something that we'll always remember. So
Cool.
we do have you to thank for it, and the music is a lot less than forgettable, man. You're always great on the microphone. We always enjoy making it out there.
Ah, sweet, man. Well, very kind to say. I'll Venmo you $5 for saying that nice one. Uh, um, But while you're thanking me, I have you to thank. Um, it's almost kind of weird. I know what my end goal wants to be, but I don't necessarily know how I want to jump into. Um, Chris spent some time working at a little Long Island company in Bohemia called Ordery. And while Chris was doing this, I was working in my field of international education, running the Canadian program at the time. Something that very much at the time for me was certainly very stressful and very, very all hours. You know what I'm saying? That's not the best way to put it, but it was pretty constant. But certainly something that, if I'm being honest, felt like a career. And even if it wasn't always in Babylon or Bayshore, I always kind of considered like this is my field, and I'll go from there in that field to do something else. Chris, every now and again, we'd be around the sod farm in back of Kozak's house with a fire lit. And anyone watching this show, unless you've stumbled upon it by mistake, in which case I'm sorry, knows that my sense of humor is not necessarily different. I don't think I'm that unique, but it's certainly very wordplay based sometimes, and there's a lot of kind of wit to it. But anyway, my point in saying that is every now and again, I would say something just kind of naturally, and Chris would just like kind of say, like, oh man, either I got to use that at work, or just like you would really fit in at my work or something like that. It just really kind of, those kinds of statements, I would say that Chris said that to me at least 5 or 6 times, like unsolicited, over us hanging out during his time there. And I wasn't necessarily looking to leave the field of international education, but certainly the seeds were planted in terms of, okay, well, I mean, there's something that seems cool, and Chris seems to enjoy his job. And then I might be blurring this timeline together, but I remember right around Rich's wedding, the day of Rich's wedding, the lights went out in my office, just like my office, not like the whole office. And I remember saying to Chris, like, part of the reason I was running a little late to like the hotel to get prepped, and set up for what was going to be one of the best days ever, is I said to Chris, just like I had to run to my sister's place and get like a lamp to plug in so that I could work and this, that, and the other thing. Like, I can't believe I'm working in an office where I didn't have light all day on today of all days. And I'm just kind of venting and decompressing, and we're getting ready. And Chris says to me, I'm paraphrasing, but he says to me, he's like, oh, that's nothing. We had the ceiling fall down right where I sit. And I remember so vividly thinking to myself, I don't think I said it out loud, but I remember thinking to myself, I was like, well, F that, I'm never working there. And lo and behold, man, I mean, I don't want to make all that stuff about me. That's not why we're here today. But eventually, the job became very 24/7, and I had more kind of weddings to attend. Just things in what I would call my real life that I didn't want to miss out on. And so I made the call to it seemed like Orderies was a chance to have a genuine 9 to 5 and be able to kind of experience the cool stuff going on outside of the office space. And I have Chris to thank for just kind of the quick connection, and I was able to actually transition into the new job pretty quickly as soon as I realized that my schedule wasn't going to allow for me to work and be present for my friends as well. And 2, man, I remember the sheer irony of walking in and looking up and seeing like the little white part of the ceiling that was newer than every other part of the ceiling. And hey, man, I mean,
that was right above my desk.
I was like, oh, Chris used to sit there. And secondly, not that I think any of them will listen to this, but you know, a lot of gratitude for Orderies to take me in and kind of let me be in the back seat of the bus instead of driving it for a while. And I've certainly met some of the most beautiful and brilliant, you know, men and women there at Orderies that, you know, I'm privileged to call my colleagues today. And you know, especially these times, you kind of realize how tight those bonds really are and how hard we all are really working. So, I mean, by all means, Chris, if you have something to add to that, if you want to talk us through the ceiling falling, but I mean, I went on for about 3 more minutes than I wanted to, but I at the very least wanted to thank you, you know, for kind of indirectly facilitating a change in my life that has largely been positive and was certainly necessary. That's for sure.
Well, you know, if I can bring any positivity to your life, I'm grateful for it. So, you know, you brought a lot to mine just by
Yeah.
being my friend. You know, obviously, you know, met my wife because of you. So I have a lot of gratitude for you as well. So of course, you know, I always want to help out when you can. But the ceiling didn't actually fall on me. I had left 5 minutes earlier, thankfully, but I went back inside, and it was. I took a nice picture of whatever the sheetrock or drop ceiling that
Yeah,
had come down
the stuff that would have
all
hurt.
over the thing. It was there. It was a rain, but yeah, it was. I mean, it's a beautiful office. It was so unexpected, but yeah, it was. You know, I really enjoyed my time there, and I know that you know, a lot of the people there were great, and you know, of course, you fit right in. So I'm very happy that there is a positive change to your life, or you can, uh, you know, stop sending those emails on the sod farm at you know, 9:30 at night while the fire's lit, because I remember that being such a huge stressor for you.
Yeah, dude. A lot of text to Thailand, man. I remember that. Yeah. I feel like well, never mind, that's not interesting. But there's this office in Thailand that I feel like they knew when I was out on the sod farm. Like that was specific to them. They were just like, oh, like let me disturb this. And I was like, great. Cool.
Yeah, you know, my one friend is never stressed out. So seeing you like that, you know, I'm glad that you made a change, and I'm glad that you're happy with it.
Well, Chris, man, any other stories you wanted to discuss before we kind of call it quits for this episode?
We covered a lot of big ones.
Yeah,
I
dude.
There's a lot of small ones, you know, where we're hanging out with friends, and you know, you always, you know, like we said, we're kind of acquaintances in high school. After high school, like all of a sudden, I was like, wow, all my friends kind of became closer because of it. But I remember so many times just sitting there, and we're the only two in the room laughing at something so stupid. I'm grateful that you know, you came into my a little bit stronger after I came back from school. But yeah, some little memories that, like, you know, I could go on it, but you know, some of the big ones we definitely touched on.
Yeah. Well, beautiful, man. Yeah, it was always good, and truly, what I love about our friendship is it doesn't take much for us to have a good time, man. It doesn't take much for us to connect. I appreciate that.
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me here on the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. It's been such a blast being able to speak with you. Like we touched on, man, a lot of love for you. All my best to the cutest new Orioles fan in the world, and Quinn. And of course, all my best to Melissa as well, okay?
Thanks, Polly. Good to see you, and we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Bye bye. Have a good one.